Breaking this morning, we are working to find out why there are several police cruisers outside of two different scenes on the southeast side of Grand Rapids, both active investigations.
Dana White is on Ottillia Street and Nelson Avenue. We'll get to her in just a moment. We want to start with Justin Kollar, who's at Sigsbee and Benjamin right now.
Well, Justin's behind the camera for us, but Justin, tell us, what are you seeing here?
Teresa and Casey, we are working to learn more information about this scene here at Sigsbee and Benjamin. There are about 6 Grand Rapids police officer cruisers here. In the last 20 minutes or so, I would say, we did see a SWAT vehicle pass through this police line here. And then just briefly after that, we did see about 2 to 3 Grand Rapids police officers heavily armed with long rifles. They appear to set up in nearby Sigsbee Park. That's just across the street from this scene. Now, when I spoke with officers here, they told me they cannot comment on this or at this time if this scene here on Sigsbee is related to the scene that Dana White is at. So we're going to be sure to get to her in just a minute here too. But at this scene right now, it's still very active. When I talked with officers about 30 minutes ago, again, they said that this situation is still developing. So be sure to stay with us both on air and online as we continue to learn more information about what exactly Grand Rapids police crews are working on here. And again, a SWAT vehicle did just arrive here about 15 minutes ago or so, and then there are officers stationed nearby with those long rifles. So be sure to stay with us.
Breaking this morning, we're working to find out why there are several police cruisers at 2 different places on the southeast side of Grand Rapids.
One of the investigations is at Sigsbee and Benjamin, the other at Ottillia and Nelson. That's about 3 miles apart. Dana White is on Ottillia Street now, but first we want to get to Justin Kollar at the other investigation.
Justin, what's been happening there since we last checked in with you at 5 o'clock?
Well, Teresa and Casey, we're still working to learn more information from the Grand Rapids Police Department on a situation that they're calling critical this morning. Just in the last minute or so, and I'm going to step aside to give you a closer look at it, just in the last minute or so, the crisis negotiation team did arrive on scene, and you can see them now starting to pull their equipment from this truck. Just moments before that, the SWAT team rearranged their situation here. We haven't seen the officers with their long rifles who appear to have set up in Sigsbee Park. That was about 30 minutes ago or so, but we have heard them on their bullhorn. Sounds like they were working to make communication with someone inside one of these houses, though we do not know any more information other than that. We don't know which house they're focusing on or exactly what that critical situation, that's what Grand Rapids Police Department said this morning in a tweet. We don't know what that critical situation entails at the moment. We're going to continue to track this developing situation, and we'll bring you the latest, both on air and online at woodtv.com. Reporting live in Grand Rapids, Justin Kollar, News 8.
And Dana White is 3 miles from there at the other investigation at Ottillia and Nelson Avenue.
Dana, what have you been able to learn within the last half hour?
That's right, Casey and Teresa. Police have been out here since about 2:30 this morning, and I'm going to take a step aside. You can see that there is a police cruiser kind of posted outside of an apartment about a few blocks from me. This is Alger Meadow Apartments in Grand Rapids on Ottillia Street, and they have been about here since 2:30. It has kind of died down a little bit since we've been here. There were more police vehicles here at the time that we arrived, but it does seem that they are investigating some type of situation in that apartment building, so we will continue to stay here and follow the very latest. Reporting live in Grand Rapids, Dana White, News 8.
A week from today, polls will be closed nationwide, and all that'll be left is the counting. In the meantime, the campaigns continue to make Michigan and your vote a priority. Mike Pence will hold a rally today in Flint. It's his 3rd stop to Michigan in as many weeks. Pence will be at Bishop Airport at 7 o'clock tonight for his rally.
Dr. Jill Biden will speak with voters tomorrow afternoon in Lansing and Westland. Joe Biden will be in Michigan Saturday. We're still waiting to hear from his campaign exactly where he'll be for that Halloween event. We'll find out today how leaders in Kalamazoo plan to keep voters safe at the polls, though.
Yeah, the city's mayor, public safety chief, along with the city clerk and county clerk will speak at 1 this afternoon. They want to remind voters that the results of this election could be delayed because of the large number of absentee ballots. You can find out exactly what they say instantly with the Wood TV 8 mobile app.
This update comes one day after police tell us a woman attacked a man who was returning his absentee ballot in Kalamazoo. That happened on Stockbridge Avenue near Bank Street. Police say the woman threw this 74-year-old man to the ground and hit him several times. Medics took him to the hospital, but say he's going to be okay. Police arrested the woman. They're trying to figure out why she did this. They say she may suffer from a mental illness.
We want to head back out to that scene with Justin Kollar, that critical incident we've been talking about. He is joined by a Grand Rapids police sergeant.
Hopefully we're getting an update on what they're investigating. Let's listen in.
The incident culminated in a homicide. Subject fled to this address here on Sigsbee. We believe this is a relative of his. He is currently holed up inside the house. We are currently negotiating with him. At this point in time, no one in the house is believed to be injured. This is, again, a relative's house. The individual has been communicating with police negotiators. We obviously have a full presence down here, our special response team, in an effort to get him out of here, out of the house, and in a manner in which we want to assure that everybody is safe. We're going to spend some time down here until he comes out. Additionally, the individual is a male, 31 years of age. The incident initially started at about 2:30. Officers located the vehicle that he fled in down here on Sigsbee at about 2:45. They initially made contact with him outside of the house, but he fled back into the house. At that point in time, that's when the negotiations started. At this point in time, not really much else to add. The relationship between the suspect and the victim is unknown at this time to its fullest extent. We have witnesses to this incident that are cooperative, so we're gleaning additional information from them.
You have reason to believe he's still armed right now?
We do. He has the handgun that was used in the homicide is unaccounted for, so it is still believed that he is armed.
Which homicide are you referring to? The one from last night?
Correct. The homicide that happened on Ottillia at about 2:30 this morning.
And what do we know about the victim?
Little at this point in time, so we know well, nothing that I can divulge at this point in time about the victim, so other than she is deceased.
Should neighbors in this area be concerned right now?
Yes, anybody that is in this general area should steer clear. Obviously, people are going to be waking up, and if anybody is coming into the area for whatever reason, to steer clear the essentially the wealthy Fuller area.
Okay. And the suspect has been communicating with you guys?
The suspect has been communicating with us, correct.
Okay. What extra measures are you guys going to be taking to hopefully get this resolved soon?
We typically, our special response team and our crisis negotiation team work hand in hand. It's all about peaceful surrender, so we could be out here all day, and that is the sole goal. Using extraordinary means is usually a last resort. Typically, it's a waiting game, so we'll just continue negotiating with them. We have time on our side.
But those negotiations are productive at this point, you'd say?
They are productive at this point. He is communicating with that through that relative. So I don't want to necessarily say we've reached the culmination of this because he hasn't come out, but they have been fruitful.
And do you know the relationship of the victim? I'm sorry if I missed that point.
Unknown at this point.
Okay, but this is a relative's home of his?
This is a relative's home of his on Sigsbee here.
Okay, and what time did he arrive here about?
He arrived here at about, as far as we know, between 2:30 and 2:45. Shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate it.
Anything else I get, I'll...
Teresa and Casey, you could hear Sergeant John Witkowski here. This situation developed, the situation that Dana is currently at, Dana White, close to before 2:30 this morning. That homicide, we do know that a woman has died at that scene. The male suspect wanted in that homicide then fled to this location along Sigsbee Street, where now he is staying holed up with a relative. That's what Grand Rapids Police Department say. He's now held up with a relative here. They are having communication with him. The handgun is still unaccounted for, so they do believe that he is armed. And again, Witkowski did say that if you are waking up in this area, to stay inside. He does have reason to believe that that suspect that they are having communication with is armed, but this is still a developing situation. As they said, you heard him say it, They do have time on their side, so this standoff situation could develop well into the daylight hours. We're going to continue to track this developing scene. We'll bring you the latest, both on air and online at woodtv.com. Reporting live in Grand Rapids, Justin Kollar, News 8.
Breaking this morning, Grand Rapids police say that a woman was shot and killed overnight on the southeast side of town.
And now officers are in a standoff with the man who they believe killed her.
They say that the woman was killed on Ottillia and Nelson, and then that suspect drove to a home at Sigsbee and Benjamin.
Dana White is on Ottillia Street right now. We're going to start with Justin Kollar, though, where the standoff is happening.
Justin, what are you seeing and what are you hearing from police there?
Well, Teresa and Casey, you can see the scene developing behind me within the last 30 minutes or so. Just before we heard from Sergeant Witkowski, the Grand Rapids Police Department's crisis negotiation team arrived here on scene. I'm going to step off camera here just to give you a closer look at that development right now. And you can see that large van that's parked out front of one of these houses. The SWAT team is further down the street on Sigsbee. We're not exactly sure which home the 31-year-old male suspect fled into, but police officers did tell us that they do believe that it is a family member's home along Sigsbee Street that he fled into. We're still working to learn more information, but police say that if you live in this area or if you're planning to come around this area, to avoid it. They do believe that suspect is armed and dangerous at this point. So as you can see, police are still taking the scene very seriously as it develops. They have had communication with him inside the family member's home. We can hear them actually right now communicating with him, presumably over a bullhorn. As soon as we have more information, and again, this scene could develop over the next few hours, we'll be sure to bring it to you both on air and online at woodtv.com. We're reporting live in downtown Grand Rapids area. Justin Kollar, News 8.
And the other officers are busy 3 miles away collecting evidence where they believe the homicide happened.
Yeah, that's Ottillia and Nelson. That's where we find News 8's Dana White, where a woman was shot and killed. Dana, what have you been able to learn from that scene?
That's right, Teresa and Casey. Police just left the scene here at Ottillia and Nelson, but I'll take a step out of the way so you can see this apartment complex that this homicide took place at this morning. This is Alger Meadow Apartments in Grand Rapids, and police tell us that a 31-year-old man shot a woman. Their relationship is unknown at this time, but they did arrive here around 2:30 this morning when that took place, and they just left about 3 minutes ago here at 6 o'clock. And police also tell us that they do have witnesses that they are working with, and these witnesses are cooperating, but as Justin mentioned, this man is still inside of a home believed to be armed at this time. And it is also worth noting that according to the city of Grand Rapids, that homicides have increased 66% since this time last year, from January through August. So we're working to continue to learn more on this situation, and we'll be sure to bring you the very latest. We're live in Grand Rapids this morning. Dana White, News 8.
From Wood TV 8, this is a breaking news alert.
I'm Justin Kollar, reporting live on the southeast side of Grand Rapids, where Grand Rapids Police Department crews are working to peacefully end a standoff after the city's 31st homicide, which took place around 2:30 this morning, just blocks away from here. I'm going to step aside to give you a closer look at what they're dealing with. We're positioned along Sigsbee Street and Benjamin Avenue, just a couple blocks away from Wealthy Street here. You can see the Grand Rapids Police Department's crisis negotiation team. SWAT team just arrived again on scene. They're working to get that 31-year-old suspect out of the house they believe he's holed up in with family members right now. They're trying to get a search warrant to peacefully end this standoff situation. We'll bring you the latest in just a little bit, but stay with us for another look at your weather and traffic.
This is News 8 from Wood TV.
Now at noon, a peaceful resolution. Grand Rapids police have safely arrested the man who they say shot and killed a woman early this morning. It's the city's 31st homicide this year and led to a standoff that lasted several hours on the southeast side. We have News 8's Justin Kollar, who's been covering this all morning, joining us now from where police arrested their suspect in the last couple hours. Justin.
Teresa, we spoke with family members who tell us they were relieved to see the 31-year-old man involved in this morning's homicide peacefully removed from the home here along Sigsbee Street behind me this morning. The man fled the scene of the shooting earlier and came here to his elderly parents' house. This is where police held him up for hours while police worked to remove him. This all started before 2 o'clock this morning, blocks away at an apartment complex along Ottillia Avenue. There, police say a woman was killed. The man fled the scene and came here to the home on Sigsbee Street, just east of Fuller Avenue. Police caught up with him and set up a perimeter using canines, SWAT teams, heavily armed officers, and the department's crisis negotiation team. They all worked in sync, communicating with the suspect for hours to ensure a peaceful resolution to this standoff. We had the opportunity to speak with his nephew, Jeremy Barnes, who stood across the street in the cold for hours, watching to make sure that his uncle would be removed safely by police. He said seeing him walk down the front steps was well worth the wait.
To see him come out good, man, that's what I've been standing out here for. You feel me? I've been standing out here to see him come out good, make sure he wasn't harmed, man, because I know how situations like this can escalate to the worst situation, man. And I just wanted to make sure I watched him personally, myself, come out of there good, man, you know what I mean? And I just appreciate the police for bringing him out that way.
Now, we also spoke with the Grand Rapids Police Department Sergeant John Witkowski. He gave us an update. He applauded his crisis negotiation team for being able to reach this peaceful conclusion. He tells us the investigation at this point is ongoing, but the suspect they removed from this home has been brought in for questioning. At this point, we expect to learn more information about that 31st homicide here in Grand Rapids in the coming hours and the names of the individuals involved in that situation. As soon as we have more information, we'll be sure to bring it to you both on air and online at woodtv.com. We're reporting live in Grand Rapids. Justin Kollar, News 8.